The UK government has been making repeated deals with big tech companies in order to use AI in the delivery of services and in administration. And I think this is a scandal just waiting to happen. So over the past few days and weeks, we have seen a couple of deals between the UK government and AI companies, including OpenAI and Google. So yesterday, this is at time of recording, there was a deal announced between the UK and OpenAI in which the government and OpenAI together are going to look for opportunities to increase productivity in the UK's public services. It might see the software ChatGPT mostly, presumably, used in education, defense, security, the justice system, kind of across the board. It's going to be driving economic growth, and we're going to have a bunch of people in an OpenAI office in London. And I can't help but massively agree with campaigners who have described this as just deeply, deeply naive. So there was a bit of pushback to a similar deal which was announced with Google just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe, early July at least, wherein a similar kind of, what The Guardian here has called a sweeping deal, but I would describe as an incredibly vague deal for Google to sort of just help the government to use AI. With the underlying notion being that just AI is generally cool. Everyone's talking about AI. Why wouldn't we want the government to have AI? In fact, this deal, I believe, didn't involve any money changing hands. That Google has offered to work with the UK free of charge, which has also, if we look here, meant that the government hasn't had to put it out to public tender. So it's not had to go, hello, tech companies of the world. We would like to use AI to make the government more efficient, as vague and nebulous as that might sound. Would any of you like to bid for this contract, and we will then decide based on merit who should get it? What's actually happened is that because no money is changing hands, the government has just signed this deal with them. They have said that it doesn't grant Google permission to train AI models on government data or access the data for other purposes. I guess I watch the tech industry with a bit more interest than your normal average person, but I wouldn't say that I am a forensic examiner of everything that they do. I will say that I am aware of the fact that the American tech industry is absolutely ridden with scandals about the use of data. And if I might offer my humble advice to the UK government, I would say that both of these deals, with both Google and with OpenAI, just scream of a scandal waiting to happen, right? Even if neither of these companies decide to do anything that is illegal or breaks their contract, we do at the very least know that whatever they are allowed to do with that data within that contract, they will 100% do it. Right? And they will have written those contracts looking for loopholes, allowing them to use the data in ways that are not ideal. So there is this whole aspect of the potential misuse of that data. We also know that both OpenAI and Google have recently done big deals with the Department of Defense in the US. In fact, so this I saw this headline the other day, actually. I really enjoyed this. The phrasing of XAI announces $200 million US military deal after Grok chatbot had Nazi meltdown. But so these companies are doing deals with other governments as well, which isn't unique, but when it comes to critical data and sort of critical operations of government, it does seem as though we should be really careful before turfing out those contracts to companies that are even based in other countries, and certainly not doing so to companies which will have concurrent contracts with other countries, right? We might view the US as an ally, okay? I would say any political analysis of what is happening in the US at the moment does suggest you should maybe be little bit cautious of treating it as such, given that Donald Trump is really keen to push for some quite strict trade negotiations and to basically bulldoze trade concessions from the UK. And we have also seen that he is willing to break agreements, right? So maybe having a deal with the same companies that also have deals with the US government is not ideal. But also the broader geography of it as well, right? So some of you will have seen the video. So many of you will have seen the video that I just released days ago over on my main channel, where I looked at the ways in which the sort of geopolitics of platform companies, right? And what does it mean for the UK or any other company or any other country to heavily rely for its industries or for any other aspect of its functioning on platform companies that are based in other countries? You know, that happens to be the US, but it could be elsewhere as well. And what we've seen is that it's already not ideal, right? So we already have Uber running through all of our towns, and on multiple levels, we find ourselves with a situation where an American platform company is responsible for like the safety of people in taxis on British streets, and like they don't really give a shit. I think is fair to say, like, we've seen the evidence is that they don't really care. But even more fundamentally, we find ourselves in a situation where like a big chunk of the cash from that industry just gets picked up and pushed off elsewhere, right? And the aspect of all of this, which is a little bit different outside of something like Uber, but is very much felt with things that are tools, which AI chatbots are very much a tool, is that we find ourselves in this kind of like subscription stranglehold, which all of us have experienced in many ways, right? With various software subscriptions we've signed up to. All of us have felt in our private lives the extent to which subscription stranglehold can get us to a place where we get a subscription to Adobe or to a similar form of software and find ourselves just hemmed in by that. The question is, well, is it a good idea for the government to do a similar thing, right? Even if we trust the use of data, even if we go, yes, OpenAI, a company which was launched as a non-profit and has since just kind of decided not to be. Yes, OpenAI, a company that has trained its AI models on copyrighted work that it has not only used without permission, which is legally meh, and is sort of morally but also stole a lot of the work that was used to train it, not in the sense of like that the system read it, but that like it didn't even pay for copies of the books that went in to be scanned to be to train the models. Like, why are we like, oh yeah, this is the time that we should trust this? But even if we do trust them that this time they're definitely going to stick to their word, we find ourselves in a situation where, like, yes, OpenAI and Google are going to give you access to these tools at either free or at a reasonable rate to begin with. But once the UK government becomes heavily reliant on using those tools, they can charge whatever they would like, right? We're going to find ourselves in a situation where the UK government is like, oh, OpenAI have decided now that the contract is like £1 billion a year. We've got to pay that because just all of our systems now rely on OpenAI tools. So wah, it's too late. Which is always the downside of any privatization and outsourcing, right? We've seen this time and again that, yes, in the short term, it seems like that if you bring in an outsourced private company to collect the bins, or an outside private company to clean the hospital, or an outside private company to, deliver security services, it seems like a good idea initially and seems like it will maybe save you money, and you can like believe that the private sector is just inherently more efficient. And in actual fact, the only way that the private sector can do something cheaper than the government can do it is either to pay people less, which is like, it is bad for government employees to not be paid well. They will do a less good job. They will be open to corruption. They will, it's just not a good starting point in terms of like encouraging an economy in which people are paid well for the government or companies that are working for the government to not be doing that. Or they can decide to just make the service worse, and that's how they save their money. Like, those are the only real options there. And yet we're doing it again. It's interesting to look back a few, 2 years ago, when the UK was going to build its own Brit GPT, right? A British, we were talking about sovereign AIs was a whole conversation. Oh, in fact, there is still a sovereign AI unit within the government, which works closely with the Prime Minister's advisor on AI, and it's sort of gonna invest in some companies, but it's also going to partner with a bunch of American companies because we can't do anything, right? Because the central kind of guiding ethos of the British government in 2025 is we can't do anything, and therefore we either have to pay someone else to do it or get the Americans in. And I don't know, I'm just putting a pin in this one right now and waiting for the scandal to come. I don't know whether it's going to be a scandal about being bent over a barrel by AI companies and having to pay them a load of money. Might be a scandal about it leading to just institutional racism because AI has decided to do its job badly. I don't know whether it's going to be a data-based scandal in which it turns out that all of our data was used to train Google, and that you can now get people's, national insurance numbers by typing in the right prompt, and that this is, and that it was just that someone had missed a sentence in the contract and hadn't really thought about it. But I really feel like it's there, Thank you so much for watching this clip from one of my Monday night live streams. If you would like to watch more of these clips, but do so ad and sponsor free, then you can do so by heading over to my premium streaming service, Nebula. Signing up to and watching videos over on Nebula is a great way to support my work. Not only do we get much more security that you will be served our videos over on Nebula in a way that YouTube tends to be much more fickle with. We also get more per view when you watch stuff over there. And we also get a little kickback if you sign up using my personal link, go.nebula.tv/Tom Nicholas. Even better, while you're over there, you can watch my debut feature-length film, Boomers, which I made last year and was not too long ago named as a Webby Awards honoree. So that was very nice. And you can also watch my Nebula exclusive class, How to Research Like a PhD Student, where I take you through a bunch of research strategies and skills and stuff which I picked up in my academic days and which I use all the time in putting together my videos. That link again, if you would like to sign up for all of that wonderful goodness, is go.nebula.tv/Tom Nicholas. Thanks so much for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next video.